Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome everyone to Persian 102, picking up where we left off. So last time in 101, we learned how to read and write the language, and now we'll actually get into the grammar. All right. It's just a bit about me, just a very small amount. I don't want to talk a lot about myself, but if you're interested, you can just go on my website, and I have a small biography blurb and section, and you can see kind of the podcast interviews I've done if you want to, see me talk about my life. But I'm an Iranian American. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, but I've also spent a few years living in Tehran, and that's where I did my Persian work. I also lived in Jordan and Kuwait, where I worked on my Arabic, and I live in New York City now. And I also have this book, and I actually have a copy here right now. It's finally out, so you can go check it out on whatever book platform you like. After this class, it's Rumi translations, and that's a lot of the work I do. So if you go on the course platform, you'll find there are quite a few classes on Rumi, and also one we literally actually just met that's ongoing. Every Sunday we meet at 10:30 in the morning, and we read the Masnavi together. And as you improve your Persian, that will definitely be of interest to you. We also have a similar class with Hafez. And if you are in the New York City metropolitan area, or if you pass through, you can just come and say hi. But if you live here and you want to come every week, we do actually have, it meets right here, believe it or not, a weekly Rumi circle here in West Harlem. So it's Wednesdays at 6:30 if you're interested. All right, I think I conveyed this essentially. All right, now a little bit about why you should study Persian. So ostensibly, if you're here, you already have made your mind up. So this is maybe just adding some fun facts about Persian, how it's relevant, maybe in ways that you didn't think about. I think a lot of you just guessing based on your name. Some of you are here for heritage reasons and other ones are not. And I'd be interested to see what the individual reasons for learning Persian are. But just a few points that I think I've found of interest for some people. One is that Persian will give you a window into other Islamicate languages. So I don't really have a better word to describe them. But by Islamicate, what I mean is that not that if you speak them, you're Muslim, or that they necessarily are intrinsically Islamic, but that they're kind of in this broader kind of Persian Islamic sphere and they've influenced each other. So if you learn Persian, you will get a huge leg up in Ottoman Turkish really of any kind, but Central Asian as well, or do Hindi, Hindustani, that kind of language family, Kurdish, Pashto, and many other languages that are adjacent to Persian. They're all cousins, right? So it's kind of like learning French, Spanish, Italian. When you learn one, the other ones become more easy, and the same is true for these languages. So we'll give you a window into these ones, even without trying. So even if you don't try to learn Turkish, just learning Persian will give you a lot of basically ability to kind of converse at a basic level, believe it or not, and I've experienced this. And if you're interested, if you're spiritually inclined, Persian is a medium of, basically disseminating information and spiritual knowledge in many of the Sufi orders of the Islamic world. So if you're interested in exploring not just Rumi, but any of these kind of Sufi orders, these ones are kind of the most famous that are, have a lot of Persian in them, but many of them will have Persian elements as well. So for the spiritually interested. And then also there are classical texts, which if you go on the Persian Poetics website, you are entitled, again, you can, with your all access membership, see any of these courses. And they're bilingual, so you can see the English one for now. You have Rumi, Hafez, Sa'di, Attar, Nizami. I mean, the list goes. We could just spend an hour talking about the different texts that you can access in the original. I hate to be cliche, but really the original is always better than the translation. As much as I would love to talk myself up, the original is always going to be better. So you get access to all of these and more works of kind of world importance. And also for those of you who are travel inclined, you get so many benefits from knowing Persian. So the countries that I've highlighted in pink are places where Persian is an official language. So it's supported at all levels, right? You get out of the taxi in the airport and you start to talk to people and they can speak to you in Persian, or at least they've learned it as a second language, right? So that's true for Iran, Afghanistan, Tajikistan. You can more or less get around. It's a lingua franca, if not their mother tongue, right? And then in countries that are red, there are large, historically present Persian-speaking communities. So Uzbekistan, probably more than any of these other ones. In Samarkand and Bukhara, they're Tajik cities. So they're ethnically Tajik mostly living there, and they speak Persian. And oftentimes, if you meet people from Uzbekistan who are from Tajik cities, they will speak Tajik even if they're not of that ethnicity. So I've met Turkic Uzbeks in Istanbul who could speak to me in Persian because they're from cities where the majority of people are Persian speaking, and other cities as well in that vicinity. And then the countries that are in green, there are either historic Persian speaking communities, or Persian has been historically a language of literature and culture and has been of importance. So believe it or not, China is included in that. So in these countries, you might not be able to speak Persian to many people, although that's also possible, but you will be able to find people like myself. I have, whenever I go to these countries, who, you go in their house and you find Rumi on the wall, and you find they have a library full of Persian books, and they're excited to speak to in Persian, and they visited, these pink countries. And so you can find a lot of Persianate culture. You go to the walls of the museums and the monuments, and you see Persian written. So there's definitely that as well. So this will open up a very kind of vast realm to you. All right. Now, what will we be doing in this course together? So the goal is to start Persian grammar. The grammar of Persian is relatively short and simple, so it shouldn't take you more than 2 10-week classes. If you really wanted to be, if you had a wedding with an Iranian in 10 weeks, we could teach it in 10 weeks. But I've decided to split it up in a 102 and 103 class. So 101 was the alphabet, 102 is introductory grammar, 103 is completing the grammar, and then from the 200s, we'll just do supplemental material. So really, in 30 weeks of online self-paced courses, so it could be even faster than 30 weeks, you could basically get going with the language, so to speak. But for this 10 class course that we have planned, it's just to start the Persian grammar. So present tense, past tense, basic future tense, possessives, things like that, just enough to get speaking, etc. And I will also be slowly introducing elements of Persian culture. Writing, I really wanted to start doing that, and also even some speaking, but there just wasn't enough time to get it all, hammered out in 10 classes. So we will be talking about Persian culture in this class, and any language you learn, you're going to have to interact with the culture. There's just no two ways about it, because language and culture are so intertwined. We're going to begin speaking. This is kind of a more intimate class. So what ends up happening is online classes, always like 1/5 of the people who sign up show up. So even though a lot of people may sign up, some more intimate group will emerge. So we're going to probably get into practicing speaking. And there's a small enough Zoom session to where I think we can all be comfortable doing that. So there isn't this sense of judgment. There isn't like 100 people watching you, right? And we will improve your reading. So you did learn to read. Again, if you didn't do 101, you can do it at your own pace. But we will be improving your ability to read. All right. If you guys have any questions, suggestions, comments, you can email me. You can type them in this chat. This Zoom chat is saved, by the way. It's continuous, since this is a recurring meeting. So the link, you can just save it. You don't have to get a new link every time. You might get a couple repeat emails just because people always sign up late. So I'll keep the sign up open for a few more weeks. So you might get like 1 or 2 more, hey, welcome to class emails. I apologize. But the meeting chat is also continuous. So you can type in, even if you type it in right as I'm leaving class, the next class, I'll be able to see it. So please don't hesitate to ask, suggest, etc. All right, so now let's work on some basic readings. Okay, so what I'd like you guys to do, if you can, is just unmute yourselves. You don't have to show your video if you're not comfortable. You just unmute yourself and say the word after me, because I really do want to get you guys starting to speak from the get-go. Some of the feedback we've gotten in earlier classes is that there's not enough speaking engagement because it is Zoom and I don't want to force anyone. I want to be nice. But if you can, please unmute yourselves and just say the word after me. So I really want to get you guys speaking. Come on, please unmute yourselves. So the first word, the way to greet someone in Persian is salam. I'll say it one more time. Salam. And this word means peace. So go ahead and say it after me. Salam.
Salam.
Salam. Salam.
Great. Excellent. I love it. Perfect. Salam. All right. And stay unmuted. We have a few more. So when you meet an Iranian for the first time, you just say salam. Now, salam, because it does kind of have an Islamic context as well, some people who want to be more neutral or they don't like Islam for whatever reason, not getting into the Iranian cultural debates, there are many. But just to let you know, there are some Iranians who will also say durud. Durud also just means something like salutations, but it's understood to be secular. Durud. Go ahead and say it after me. Durud.
Durud.
Excellent. Awesome. I love to hear it. Yeah. So durud is essentially like salam, but it is a Persian word in etymology, and salam is Arabic, as you may have guessed. Now, we'll also get into this as well, because Persian it's very much like English, how it has Germanic vocabulary and Latin and French vocabulary, and the contexts actually do differ. Although we don't think about it, they do differ, and Persian is very much the same. We have a large group of words from Persian and a large group from Arabic and French and nearby languages in Turkish, and the context in which we use the words is different. So salam is very informal feeling. Durud is just like salutations in English. It's kind of like sounds like a newscaster would say, which is usually when you hear that word, by the way. All right, now please keep yourselves unmuted. We have another word. So when you say salam, it is salam. So shalom is related to salam. They're both basically etymologically Semitic words. They're the same essentially, but they've just changed over time. So when someone says salam, they can say to you salam khubi, which means hello, are you good? How are you? Or if a person says salam to you, just salam, you could just reply to them khubi. So go ahead and say after me khubi.
Khubi.
Yeah. So this letter is one of those that might take some effort for you all to pick up because it's a kha sound. It's kind of hard. Eventually, what I'll do is I'll pull up a diagram for you. We'll spend a kind of a day focusing on some of these hard to say sounds, but it's kind of like it's from the back of your tongue rubbing against the top of your mouth. It's almost similar to gargling, kind of a similar motion. So khubi. Anyway, I know it's a bit it'll take a bit of time to get some of those letters, but that's all right. Okay, now we'll get into conjugation, but one thing you guys might notice is that you have in this one khub and then an e, and then this one you have khub and then an m. In Persian, when you add a y, it's the second person conjugation. It's you. So khub e means good you, but what the question is, are you good? And then when you add am, it means I am good. So you could respond khubam. Go ahead and say it after me. Khubam. And someone said, is this Nastaliq? Yes, this is Nastaliq font. So I know it's a bit harder to read, but it really is important to get acquainted with it because most of the classical texts or calligraphy, things like that, will be written in Nastaliq. People tend to handwrite in Nastaliq, so it really is important. And in the 101 class, again, if you guys want, you can, with your membership, you can just watch it all. I would recommend you crash course it if you don't know how to read and write that well. You can even make a thing out of it where you take a break from this class and then after an hour you sit and watch that one. But I do basically both in that class where we have computer font and Nastaliq because it really just is important to know it. All right, now we'll try to do some speaking and some greetings in every class, hopefully. But for now, let's go on to actual grammar. Okay, so the very first thing that will strike you in Persian, unless you speak a language that just happens to be similar to Persian, is the word order. Persian has a word order that's quite different than English. Not only is it quite different, but it's much more, you can say, kind of flexible. So there is a sense that it's subject, predicate, verb, or subject, object, verb. The verb does tend to come at the end in Persian, but that's not a hard and fast rule as in English, right? So in English, the verb tends to come towards the front, but you couldn't really put it at the end of a sentence usually, for example, right? Like you would never say, I home, I went. But in Persian, you can say, I went, I home, home, I went. Like you could reorganize it. But the default, we'll get into that. That's more kind of poetic. The default is that Persian follows subject, predicate, verb. So a very normal sentence in Persian would be, someone says, unless you're Yoda. Yeah, unless you're Yoda, you can speak like, yes, that's there. Anyway, man khane raftam. So I will always, again, try out the transliteration. Man khane raftam. Very simple sentence. Man, khane, which is home, raftam, which is I went. And you guys will notice, again, there's that meme at the end, which has to do with I. But don't worry about that too much for now, just so you notice. So it's literally I, home, I went. This is a very basic structure of a Persian sentence, right? So the subject is I, and then home, the object, predicate, etc., whatever you fill in there, and then the verb, I went, raftam. So this will take some getting used to. And Persian is similar to Latin in the sense that a lot of sentences will simply end with ist or ist, and in Persian it's ast, and these are actually cognate to each other. I know that might be like, wait, how are they cognate? Latin is in, Italy and Rome, and Persian is in the Middle East. Well, Persian is in the Middle East, but it is ultimately part of the Indo-European language family. So the Indo-Europeans, our ancestors came from the kind of Central Asia steppe and went westward into Europe, and some of them just stopped in Iran or that vicinity of Iran going westward. So northern Indians, people in Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Iran, etc. These are Indo-European people, and that's why our languages are all cognate to one another in a kind of very broad sense. So not related in the sense of like Italian and Spanish, where you can really understand each other. That's closer relation. We're talking about very distant. But nonetheless, there are still a lot of similarities that I will point out, and you might even notice without me pointing out. So ast is one of them. Ast means is in Persian, and English is, and Latin ist are all cognate to one another. And again, there are exceptions for the sake of poetry. Can we say man raftam khane? Yes, so you can do that. That's a very good question. So you can say man raftam khane. That works. And in fact, in colloquial Persian, probably I would say that actually. So Persian is flexible, like I said, but this is kind of the default outline, so to speak. Whereas in English, we usually don't do that. We don't have a lot of flexibility with sentence order. We say asti in many Avestan prayers. Oh, beautiful. Are you, I mean, I don't want to call you up, but are you Parsi? That's very cool. If you are, I'd like to ask you more about that. Beautiful. Okay. Now, so we covered that. So it is subject, predicate, verb, subject, object, verb. If there's any questions, please don't hesitate to type them out. All right. Now, setting that aside, gender. I actually recently made a video about this. Maybe you saw it. It will relieve you that there is no grammatical gender in Persian. But then you might say, oh, but in English, we also don't have grammatical gender. That's true. But in Persian, it goes even farther. For example, in Persian, even the pronouns aren't gendered. So the pronouns are gender neutral. The nouns don't have feminine and masculine. So it's not like la livre, la table, el casa, so many words in different languages. They have masculine, feminine, etc. No masculine and feminine in Persian. Now, occasionally that does leak in from French and Arabic because certain words we borrow are masculine and feminine. But other than the fact that they include the kind of masculine or feminine element in the original language, we treat them as neutral. So to give you an example, the word for table in Persian is miz, which, like any Persian word, etymologically Persian word, originally Persian word, is gender neutral. But in Arabic, it's tawila, which is feminine. So in Persian, when we say this word tavele, which is not commonly used anymore, it's archaic, it's like medieval sounding, but just as an example, it is feminine in Arabic, but Persian treats this as gender neutral. So this may take some getting used to, for example. And there are kind of niche exceptions here and there, but on the whole, it's gender neutral, right? Again, other than interactions with other languages. To give you guys a quick example that's accessible immediately, now, sometimes when I teach this class to people from Pakistani or Turkish backgrounds, I use Arabic words because, it's kind of probably from the Quran or something they're familiar. But this one, I kind of went in my toolbox and pulled out an English equivalent. Although in English, this isn't really that, it's a distinction that's disappearing, but it exists. So in English, blonde with a D, that's it, is for masculine, and blonde with an E is for feminine. Now, again, people might say, wait, I've never heard of that. Now, this is, again, it's distinction is dying, but just to give you an example. So in English, you would say a blonde man, and in Persian, and a blonde woman, although we pronounce them the same. But in Persian, it's blond for both, right? Even though they're pronounced differently or the same in English, maybe it's not a perfect example. There is no difference, right? Or I'm trying to think of another possible example, like actor, actress. We don't have such a thing in Persian, etc. So just to give you guys a small idea, there is no gender. We treat things as neutral, and we tend to just inherit whatever the default word is, and then we just treat the word as gender neutral from there. Bedrud, yes, Bedrud means I have to go. And the classes are recorded, although please don't treat that as a reason to not come to them live, because it really does help if you're here and you can ask questions and all that. All right. So now, we passed that. We said there's no gender in Persian. Now, Persian nouns and their states. There is no definite article for nouns in Persian. So what is a definite article? It's like the, right? So if I say, give me a book, maybe I just want, I don't know, this copy of Dickens to prop up a table. Oh, give me a book. This chair is rocky. Give me a book. But then what if I say, give me the book? That means my book, right? The book, or the good book, the Bible, or the Quran, etc., right? So when we say a book, it's just any book. It's indefinite. But when we say the book, it is definite. It's a particular book, right? We went to the place, a specific place in mind. This is represented by al in Arabic, right? So sometimes if you don't know Arabic, it's fine. You might wonder, why does he keep bringing up Arabic? Sometimes it's just easy to bring it up because a lot of people who are studying the language, they can kind of just guess by your names, probably have some experience with Arabic. So al in Arabic is like the, just like in English. But in Persian, we don't have such a thing. So then you might wonder, wait a minute, how do you say the book in Persian. Well, the book in Persian is just already assumed when you say book. So in English, when I say the book, and in Arabic, we say al-kitab, the book. In Persian, when you say book, it's already assumed to be in the absolute state, in the, for example. So in Persian, when I say kitab khub ast, and you already saw the word khub, and we already said ast is like is, it's, book good is, right? Literally, you're saying book good is. That's verbatim what you're saying. But what you're actually saying, if you want to translate it, is the book is good. So there's no the here, right? There's no the book, there's no al-kitab. It's just presumed that when you mention a noun, it's already considered definite. It's in the absolute state. I hope that makes sense to you all, right? So if in English you say book is good, which really should be books are good, it's understood to be generic. So if you say the book is good, it's specific. But if I say books are good, that's general. But in Persian, if you say book is good, that's specific. Now to go back, there is also no indefinite article in Persian. So in English, we have the book, definite, a book, indefinite. In Persian, we don't say the, right? It's just definite. Then how do we say a? How do we make it non-specific, right? So we said specific is on its own specific. The way we do that in Persian is we add a y. This is a book. So to give you guys a quick synopsis of this before I go back to the slides. So in English, we have book, a book, or I should say the book. Let me do this, make it easier. We have the book, right? In Persian, this is just represented by the word book, kitab. So I'll write this very small for you. Those of you who have not learned the alphabet yet, but I encourage you to get on top of that. And then we have a book, non-specific, general, just any book. I just want any book. I'm bored for 10 minutes. Just give me any book. In Persian, that's represented by adding a Y to the end of the word, kitabi. So if you need to write this down, just take a second to mull it over. If you have any questions, please ask. But this is important to understand going forward. So in English, we have the book, a book, the book, just any book. In Persian, it's kitab, kitabi. I hope that makes sense. If there's no questions, I'll go back to the slide. All right. So we explained this. We said kitab khub ast. All right, 2 questions. Let me see. Do sun, moon characters from Arabic have a meaningful distinction? Yes, they do. You have to pronounce them, but we'll get to that in due time. That's kind of more of a 103 thing. We're just we're getting going. But if you know what the half Shamsi and half Qamari is, or sun letter, moon letter in Arabic, then yeah, they do exist in Persian, insofar as we borrow Arabic words. So it's important to know that. Can we say yek kitab? So yek kitab is a book, but we're not getting to, we'll get to that later. But right now, I just want you guys to understand this basic thing. Okay, so we covered this. Kitab khub ast, the book is good. But there is also another element where when you say kitab khub ast, it can also mean books are good. It can also be a category as well. So in Persian, a noun in the absolute state, like the in English, can mean a singular item or the category itself. So when I say kitab khub ast, and I should really put books here. When I say kitab khub ast, it can mean books are good. Like, hey, reading is good, books are good. Or it can mean, like you saw earlier, the book is good. Both can be true. And it depends on your, essentially, context to defer or decipher to tell the difference. So noun in the absolute state can be a singular. And by the way, don't worry to copy the slides down, by the way, guys, because you have the slides on the course platform. So just focus on kind of understanding. A singular book, or it can be a category of books. Kitab khub ast. Kitab khub ast means it is a good book, but we'll get into that later when we get into izafaz. But no, you didn't make that up. That's real. Kitab khub ast means this is a good book, though. It's a good book. So you can say kitab khub ast, books are good. Or kitab khandan khub ast, to read books is good. So again, a noun in the absolute state is represented by the noun with nothing added or removed, and it can mean a singular, the book is good, or the generic, the books are good, or books are good, excuse me, not the books are good. All right. Now, how do we make nouns in the non-specific state? So we said kitab on its own means a book or books as a category, right? Now, how do I just say any book? Well, one book, not the book, but just any one book. You just add a Y to the end. So we have kitab and then kitabi. And if you're up with the Persian, hopefully, kitab, kitabi. Just a Y is added to the end. This is just a book, any book. So if you go into a bookstore and say, دنبال کتاب هستم, I'm looking for books, right? Remember earlier, we saw, I'm just looking for books. Kitab can just mean the category. It can mean the book or category. I'm just looking for kitab, just books, anything. But if you go into a store and say, دنبال کتابی هستم, it's a particular book. This book published in this year by this publisher, this edition, this author, etc. So kitabi is a book. So again, please commit this scheme to memory. This is very important. If you have to screenshot or quickly write it down, this will help you immensely. All right. So moving on. Now, so far, we changed a specific noun into a non-specific noun by adding a Y. One thing I want to say, actually, before we even get into this, is that it's really important to understand the goal of a language, or the goal of a writing system is to approximate the way we speak. The goal of a language is not to speak in accordance with the writing system, if that makes sense. So languages are spoken first and then written, right? It's not the opposite. So what's important about that is that it's important for the way we speak to be consistent, not the way we write necessarily, because writing systems have all kinds of historical anachronisms and inaccuracies and problems, right? The important thing is the way we speak the language, not necessarily the way it's written. Why am I saying that? A second ago, we just said, okay, kitab is book and kitabi is a book, right? And I think this is straightforward enough. What was the difference between these? So this is kitab and this is kitabi. The difference between these is that this one has an E sound. E. So all we know in Persian, all we're trying to say is that when you want to make something non-specific, you need this E sound. Now, it doesn't matter what letter is attached to the word. That could be any letter. The essence of the matter is that we're saying kitabi. Why? Well, we spoke Persian before we had the Arabic writing system, right? It was written some other way. So the Arabic writing system is not the goal. The goal is to say the word correctly. Why am I saying this? Imagine the word dana. We have the word dana, which means something like sage or smart or something like that. Intelligent person, right? And this is dana. Now imagine we just wanted to follow the same formula as earlier. We want to say a sage, a smart person, a genius, whatever. And you said, oh, well, earlier I added a Y, right? Kitab, kitabi. So I'll do the same thing. Can anyone tell me what the problem with this is right here? If I want to say kitab, kitabi, dana, danai, what's the problem with what I've just done? The problem is that this doesn't say danai. This says danai. If you read the Persian, danai, there's no E sound. We didn't get danai. We didn't get that. What we instead got was a Y. Well, this has to do with the fact that the consonants and the vowels interact with each other differently. So how do we fix this? How do we get it to say danai? When there's an ending vowel, we add this little hamza sound. So we have kitab, kitabi, dana, danai. So again, the goal is to say E. The goal is not to just add a Y. The Y is incidental, whether it's Y or hamza Y. It has to do whether the word ends with a consonant or a vowel. But the goal is that we have this E sound. So book, the book, books, a book. A smart person, the smart person, a smart person. So we need a book to have a mosque. We need a Quran. We need a smart person to have a university class, etc. Right? Something like that. So going back to the slide, I hope it makes sense. If a noun ends in a vowel, you add hamza ya. So dana, dana-i, which would be a sage, one sage, any sage, etc.
I had a question
Okay.
about Hamza.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, is that something that you have to write down as well? Because like I was aware that like some of the stuff that you add at the top is like only like when you're a beginner, and then like once you started reading,
No,
you
yeah,
just
no. This is not a vowel. This is a letter. Good question. Yeah. So some of the markings essentially, like just to give you guys, yeah, very good question. This is an important distinction here. So like the word kitab, if you look at it to kind of clarify what he was asking, this is a great question. So if you look at this word kitab, this is K and this is T. This is, let's just say, equivalent to an A in English and B. So if we write this down, we get this. But that's like kitab or something. How does this become kitab? Well, that's because we have this little vowel here, kitab, right? When you want to write kitab, if you want to be really kind of perfect, you can do this. But no one does that because it's already understood. There's no other word that this could be. There's no possible realm of confusion. There's no equivalent or equal similar word. Now that's true for other words, that they could be the same word if not for vowels, right? But this is just not the case. Anyone after any first grader could know that this is kitab and only kitab. So we just don't write that vowel. So what was just asked is this similar to that? No, this is its own letter. Hamza is actually like a proper letter on the keyboard, this little thing right here. So if you go actually, here, I'll show you guys Persian keyboard. If you go and you want to write the word kitab, and I recommend this website if you want to kind of just get more versed with how letters attach, you write kaf, where's the T, aleph, ba. These are letters right here, right? These are the vowels. So you can come here and put, so it's kitab. But this over here is its own proper letter. This right here, hamza, that I'm putting a bunch of times. So if you wanted to write da-na-i, would look like that. But this is its own proper letter. Why do you say kitab and write kitab? Because of my accent. So I have a Tehrani accent. So it's like kitab in Arabic, kitab, but I say kitab because of my Tehrani accent. Essentially, I'm from Tehran, and that's the way you speak. Also, most Iranians actually speak that way, but not all, but most. And I try to generalize as little as possible. But yeah, it's my accent. All right. Now, a small detour related to this exact topic. And I mentioned earlier that Persian was written as a language before Arabic came along. And Arabic came along and we started writing Persian in Arabic. But whenever you write a language in a writing system designed for another language, you're going to come across problems. And this is exactly the type of problem that English has because it's a Germanic language, right? But instead of being written in runes or something like that, it's written in Latin letters, which is why, and aside from other reasons related to the printing press and standardization, why English spelling is so weird. But that's part of it, right? Whenever you have a language system using an alphabet from a different system that wasn't made for that language, you're always going to have problems, right? So some languages like Korean, they actually just invented the alphabet for their language, or Armenian. So in theory, that would work nicely, right? We don't have that luxury in Persian. The ancient Persian script, I don't know it to tell if it had a lot of vowels, but it was more convoluted than the current script, which is part of the reason that we switched. But in any case, Arabic script is being used to write Persian. Now, we kind of have a problem in Persian, which is certain words are only represented by one letter in this alphabet. Why? Consider the Persian word ke, or ke if you have my accent, or che, chi or something, or che if you have my accent. These words, which mean who or that, and also what. But don't worry what the word means yet. We'll get to that in a couple of classes. If you wanted to write these words in the Arabic alphabet in the proper way, you would write a kaf with a low vowel and a che with a low vowel. ke, che, right? And this is actually what we did for a long time. Rumi's son wrote down the Masnavi, and we have a copy of it actually in Konya. I saw it. And Rumi's own son writes the word what this way and that this way. He writes them this way. At a certain point in time, we decided that this just looked weird to have a word be represented by a single letter, and it was confusing as well. So he came up with this convention called a silent he, where we write the letter H even though there's not a letter H, just as a form of convention, essentially. So the word ke, which means that or who, and the word che, which means what, are written this way today. Even though there's no H, if you listen closely, I'm not saying che or ke. It's che and ke, right? But because of just the fact that it was hard to keep track of writing words with vowels, because again, like I mentioned earlier, we don't write the vowels down. We decided to write the vowels as the letter H, even though they're not the letter H. So Iranians make this mistake all the time. Even in my own name, Shahrzadeh, by the way, like Zadeh, if you meet an Iranian whose last name is Zadeh, it should only be spelled this way. This H at the end is just incorrectly added. It's not Zadeh. It's Zadeh. There's no H sound there. But we think there is because Iranians don't know about this. It's so old that no one actually thinks about it. So che and ke have this silent H. Now, why is this detour important? This seems like a very kind of niche example, really kind of random factoid. Well, it's important because of this exact issue that we're talking about here. So we covered this. An example of this, actually, of why this is important is khan, khane, and khane. So imagine you want to write the word Khan, which is a Turkic title. Maybe a person here might have the last name Khan. Doesn't seem like it, but it's possible. Oh, wait, no, there is. There you go. Someone here has the name. Perfect. Khan is a Turkic title, right? And then in Arabic, Khana means he betrayed. And then Khana in Persian means home, which is how it would be spelled. But there's no vowels, remember? Like earlier. So now imagine these three words could be Khan, Khana, Khana, which means the Khan betrayed the house. But they all look the same. It's impossible to differentiate them. How would you be able to tell if it means the name, he betrayed, and the house? Now, you might say he betrayed is Arabic, but back then it was very normal to have Arabic in the middle of Persian. Okay, so how do we differentiate this? Well, for Khan, we write this little circle, this sukun. It's called sukun or sakin, which both mean resting in Arabic. It's this little circle here. You see me writing? There shouldn't be 50 of them in a row, but here. This circle is sukun. It means there's no vowel, right? So on this, we put a sukun, Khan, nothing else. Mr. Khan. On this one, Khana, we put a little vowel, Khana, he betrayed. And on this one, Khane, what we decided to do is make it an H. So the word Khane has an H, but again, there's no H in that sound. It's Khane or Khana if you're Afghan or Tajik. But in any case, there's no H sound. This is just a spelling convention. Please don't make this mistake. So that was an example I thought of to explain this issue. So the Khan betrayed the house. Not to say that people who are Khan are betrayers or anything, God forbid. So why is this important? If your word ends in a silent H and you want to make it a non-specific, you have to add an alif ya. So what you see here, khane, becomes khanei. So to go back over what we had, so we have kitab became kitabi, the book, a book. This is what we have so far. And then we had dana, if it ends in a vowel, dana'i. Hamza, yeah. Betrayal is khiyanat in Persian, but it comes from the same root. It's also Arabic. Khiyana. And then we have خانه خانه-ای. So again, they all make the same E sound. Kitab, kitabi. Dana, dana-i. Khane, khane-i. But this is a consonant, so you just add a Y. This as a vowel, so you add a hamza Y. And this is a silent H, so you add an alif Y. Interesting. Khana means done. It could be from Persian. Russian and Persian have a lot of words that have been shared because of our maritime border. But in any case, I hope this makes sense. Please commit this to memory. This is very important to understand going forward and for your homework. Okay. Now, if the word ends in Y, there's some small spelling differences that have come about because Persian is in such a vast geographic area and there's no really like standard centralized body. So take the example of the word sandali, which means something made of sandalwood. But in Iran, chairs from India would be imported that were made of sandalwood. So the word sandali means chair for us. This is where the word sandal comes from in English, from British colonization, I think, of India. They had wooden shoes made of sandalwood, so we got sandal. Now consider the word sandali, which means made of sandalwood, but it means chair to us. Now, how would you say a sandali, sandali-i? People have differed quite a bit. So what you could get is this, sandali-i, two Y's in a row. You could also get this, sandali-i, an alif Y. So you could do alif Y or you could do double Y. It's really up to you. I am not going to tell you one way or the other. It doesn't really bother me one way or the other, just something to know. So you could get double Y or alif Y, and I've spelled that out here. So sandali-i, sandali-i. Now, what I want to quickly do with you guys is just so that we can get the pronunciations down, is have you pronounce the words with me. So I'm going to say kitab, kitabi, etc. We're going to keep going. So go ahead and unmute yourselves again. All right. So go ahead and say after me, kitab.
Kitab.
Excellent. Now say kitabi.
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 Excellent. Now say dana.
Dana.
Excellent. Now say dana-i. Excellent. Now say khane. Now say khane-i. Perfect. Excellent. Okay. Oops. Now say sandali.
Sandali.
And then, excellent. Sandali-i. Excellent. Great. All right. Now, not every H is silent. This is important. Don't be overzealous now. There are words that actually end in H, right? So khane, we said, yes, very good. Cool. Exactly. So khane is a silent H. But the word kuh, if you listen, kuh, now I'm exaggerating a bit so you can hear it. Kuh ends in an H sound. That's a real H. So if you want to make kuh non-specific, so I'll give you guys a blank slate. Kuh, which means mountain, we do just add a Y to it, right? We say kuhi, a mountain. Kuh, kuhi. So go ahead and say it after me. Kuh. Unmute yourselves. Kuh. There you go. And then kuhi. Excellent. Yeah. So that's a real H. Now, I know it's a bit convoluted. How do you know it's a real H and what's not? I'll help you in class. And eventually it'll become intuitive. You'll slowly start to feel it. Okay. Now, the adjectival order. The adjectival order in Persian is as follows. You have the thing and then the adjective. So it's the opposite of English. So kitabi khub, which means a good book, because we have kitabi. If it was kitab, it would be the good book. So kitab khub is the good book, but kitabi khub is a good book. Don't worry about the difference now, but just a good book, right? We literally say a book good. So the opposite is True here. We have the opposite system as in English, right? In English, we have the adjective first. In Persian, the adjective comes last. So actually say it after me, please. Unmute yourselves. Kitabi khub. Kitabi
Kitabi
khub.
Abi خوب.
Excellent. And the next one is an old country. Keshvari qadimi. Go ahead.
Keshwari
کشوری
Qadimi.
قدیمی.
Excellent.
Ishari kadimi.
Excellent. Kuhi bozorg. Go ahead.
Kuhi
Buzurg.
Excellent. Yeah, sounds great. Yeah. So these are all literally a book, good, but a good book. A country, old, an old country. A mountain, large, a large mountain. Great. All right. Why write khane and not khane? It's either is fine. It's just an accent difference. So you could write it. I try to, in the slide, there's only so much space, so I just write it one way, the more classical sounding way. But my accent, it's as opposed to ah. So Afghans and Tajiks would say khana, but Iranians, most Iranians would say khane, and it's totally fine to do either. It doesn't make a difference to me. I would just pick whatever you're more likely to interact with. Like if you're knowing Iranians or hanging out with Iranians, you want to go to Iran, you want to marry an Iranian, just do the Iranian way. If you are just interested in literature or you're living in, I don't know, Fremont and you're friends with Afghans, and say it the Afghan way. So, and ultimately it makes a very small difference, just very kind of minute differences. All right. Now the plural of inanimates. And also, I should say, in spoken Persian, really all plurals are just this way. Now, in literary Persian, there's a distinction. In spoken, there isn't. But in literary Persian, for inanimate objects, so things with no biological function is maybe a more distinct way of saying it, or more kind of specific, we just add ha. So kitab is book, kitab ha is books. Keshvar is country, keshvar ha is countries. Sandali is chair, sandali ha is chairs. Now in colloquial Persian, we tend to de-emphasize H's. So you might actually hear kitaba, keshvara, sandaliya, as opposed to sandaliha. But again, we're going to stick to written formal Persian for now. So kitab, kitab ha, keshvar, keshvar ha, sandali, sandali ha.
کشورها.
Excellent. Yeah,
کشورها.
keshvar. If you guys want to say it, actually, let's all say it together. Kitab ha. Go ahead.
Kitabha.
کتابها.
Keshvar ha.
Keshwarha.
Excellent. Sandali ha.
Sandaliha.
صندلیها.
Excellent. All right. Now, if you wanted to make a non-specific, a plural non-specific, how would you do that? So we had kitab, kitabi. Now you might be tempted to say kitab ha. Well, kitab is a consonant, so we add a y, kitab hai. No, it's not about whether kitab is a consonant or a vowel, for that matter. It's about the last letter of the word is what counts ultimately. So kitab did become kitabi because B is a consonant. But now kitab ha is a vowel. It ends in an alif. So for kitab ha, we have kitab ha e, some books. So go ahead and say it after me. I know it's a mouthful. Kitab ha e. Go ahead and say it.
کتابهایی.
Mhm. So kitabi is the book, a book. Kitab ha is books, the books. Kitab ha'i is some books or any books. All right. All right. And now in Persian, we don't have plurals and adjectives. In English, we also don't. So if you're primarily an English speaker, this should be simple. In other languages like Arabic, for example, there are plurals for adjectives. But in Persian, we just say kitab-ha'i khub. Actually, go ahead and say it after me now. Kitab-ha'i khub. Excellent. Yeah. Some good books, right? Khub is just as it is, good. There's no goods, right? In some countries, in some languages, you'd say some goods books, for example, right? We don't have that. We have keshvarha'i bozorg. Go ahead and say it. Keshvarha'i bozorg. Yeah. Excellent. Some large countries. So kitabha, keshvarha is countries and books. And then makes it non-specific. And then bozorg and khub make it large and good, respectively. All right. Now, the plural of animates. This is only in classical Persian. And in spoken Persian, when you want to say something kind of really formally. Like, for example, 95% of the time, I would say Irani ha. So Iran is the country, Iran. Irani is Iranian. Irani ha, Iranians. Oh, us Iranians, ma Irani ha. We like kebab, something like that. But if I wanted to say Iranians are fed up with the system of the country, then maybe I would say Iranian if I wanted to be like kind of more intense. But normally, really, even that, no. So we have Irani, Iranian. Go ahead and say that after me. Iranian.
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 Mhm. We have Musalman, which is Muslim in Persian. And then the Muslims is Musalmanan. Go ahead and say it after me. Musalmanan.
Musalmanan.
And then we have in my accent, we say dust, but in Eastern Persian, it's dost. Dost or dust, and then dustan. Go ahead and say it after me.
Dustan.
Yeah. Dustan, we do sometimes actually say randomly. I think just because it sounds nicer than dustha. But again, it just kind of is random whether people say ha or on. If it helps you to just say ha all the time, that's fine. If you do care to say to distinguish for living things, to say on, that's also okay. I'm not going to be a stickler. All right. Now the vocabulary for today's material. I'll go ahead and say the word and just say it after me. Bad.
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 Buzorg.
Buzorg.
Pakkon.
Con.
Khane.
Khane.
Khub.
Khub.
Dar.
Dar.
Excellent. Sandali.
Sandali.
Qadimi.
Kadini.
Kitab.
Kitab.
Keshvar.
Keshvar.
Kuchak.
Kuchak.
Ku.
Ku.
Gach.
Gach.
Mies.
Knees.
And then no.
No.
Excellent.
No.
And you'll even notice now some of the Indo-European commonalities. This one might actually not be a commonality. That might be a false friend. And same with dad. But no and nu, I'm almost 99% sure they're related etymologically because they're both Indo-European. All right. Now, the homework for this class. Unfortunately, I try to avoid giving homework to my online classes, but it's impossible to learn a language without doing some homework, guys. So it is what it is. So these phrases, and if you have any trouble pronouncing them, you could listen back to the recording of us just pronouncing all these words. Please translate them into English. So I'll give you guys the first one and how I would do it. So mizi buzorg. So you would go back to the vocab and say miz, table. And then there's a Y added. So a table. And then bozorg is large, and then you would reorder it, right? So you wouldn't say a table large, a large table. Sandali hai khub. So you see sandali is chair. And then ha is the plural of an inanimate object. So chairs. And then e is the non-specific. So some chairs. And then khub is good. So some good chairs. And we will give you the answers to these in the next set of slides. So next class, before next class, you'll be able to access the slides and check yourselves. So what I would do actually is I'm going to upload the slides for next class before the class and just check them over quickly, and you can ask questions. And you're also, welcome to ask in future classes if you're ever behind or anything. But that would just be good to stay on top of it. And then translate these back into Persian, please. So I know it seems hard now, but once you do this slide, you'll get a hang of it, and then this will be easier than you imagine. So I hope you don't have too much trouble with the homework, and I'll try to avoid overburdening you all. But it is really necessary to have about like half an hour, or so of homework to make sure it sticks and to prepare you for the next set. All right, that's it for today. If there's any questions, you don't have to write it by hand. You can write it in any way as long as you keep track of it. I'm not going to collect it in any way, but just as long as you can do it and make sure that you can fully understand what we're doing, that's good. And you can also use your judgment. I mean, if there's ever, I'll try to avoid giving long homework, but if there's a lot of homework and you feel really strong about a topic, like I'm not going to say you have to do every single question, but just please don't get in the habit of not doing it and just saying, oh, I understand, because it really kind of does add up and you might find yourself, stepping back and be like, whoa, I'm really off pace with the class. So it really does help to just do it. I try to make it like to where it's not more than half an hour of work, right? Like this, I don't think these, 10, 15 should take more than 30 minutes max. So, all right, beautiful. Are there any questions, comments, anything at all? If not, I'll let you guys go and enjoy your week. And I'll try to keep the class to about an hour every week, give or take. All right, beautiful. If not, it was good to see you all. I'm glad that you're all starting or continuing really your Persian journey if you were with me with 101. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And again, the email is open. If you have any questions, you can always type them in the chat and I'll hope to get to you as soon as possible. My pleasure. Adios. Khoda hafiz, everyone. Goodbye. Masalama. Ciao.
Hafiz.
See you all. Bye.
Hafiz.